can't beat us, join us, please bring your coinage. We sink 3-pointers, money shots, all net, all vets. Bums we not, jet skiing in them sunny spots. With women edible like gummy drops. Dummy stop, dummy stop. No weapon form can intercept a storm. Once my intellect is on, I'm projecting on magnetic fields and interact with blacks with athletic bills. I'm all about growth and development like residents of Ebbets Fields. Not to choose between woo and chew. We wanna line them colors up like a Rubik's Cube and fade to black, yeah, the truest hue. When you say the black man is God, who you alluded to? The usual, Clarence 13X, a worthy guest. The words expressed come from the word in flesh. Elijah M, the NOI versus Leviathan. Messiah sent from the heavenly branches. 7 P's from since G-Dub cut down the cherry tree. In the wilderness of North Mex, and we flossing death and forced aggression, or forced perception, forced protection, or forced confessions. It's all a lesson. The sorcerers from Corsica, killer tonics, sticks and drums like the Philharmonic Orchestra. You niggas still playing harmonicas from officers, fabric softener. Jive turkeys popping 5 perkies, playing with keys, the Scotch stores type. For that soft right, we could've caught life, just being forthright. First class on my 4th flight, popping out like Fortnite. Every night we lit like porch lights. The meek shall inherit the earth, oh yeah, the scorched type. And these niggas, they some hoes in these streets. Me, I'm 10 toes in these streets. They lost their souls, niggas got holes in their feet. Shit, I'm just worried about the craft and how to perfect it. Not worried about the craft, yeah, that's out of perspectives. Focus on the chip like I'm Robert Kraft, and then how to protect it. It's the waves of the oceans. Get to the money, nigga, save your emotion. Descendant of the slaves in the graves in the oceans. Mastermind that the waves is in motions. These niggas, they addicted to the folly, addicted to that molly. Making me a movie, them sticks made of holly. I'm Dr. Manhattan, sitting on top of Manhattan. When I get all 5 rings, snap my fingers and pop up on satin. Dressed in all black, yeah, drop top the Phantom. Bless.
From TV.
Diamonds is dancing like they up in disco. You niggas in fist smoke, you stay up that dip low. You niggas stay up and get low. Heard you way over in Frisco, and you say what the heck so. Every player gets snipped nose, acting gay up in Cisco. Might take the day off and play up at Listos, causing chaos and play up Calypso. I pull wars and kitchens and caused addictions. I paused prescriptions and caused inflictions. Bill Bixby playing in stores in Brixton on the dark web. You gotta pause every doors, cause encryptions. Tesla engines, pause the pistons. I seen every floor I leave sore enlisting. For that action they sponsored the Bronson. They was hooked on that shit like Johnson and Johnson.
On check 1 2, microphone check 1 2. Let me know if you can hear me in the building. Microphone check 1 2 1 2. All right, shout out to the family. You know what I'm talking about? Yes, sir. Peace to the family. Peace to the family. Let me know if you can hear me. Let me know if the audio is good. Check, 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 check. Check, check, check. Okay. All right now. Peace to the family. Peace to you and yours. Peace to the family. Peace to you and yours. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to another episode of Sacrilegious Sundays. You are now rocking with the best. Yes, this is your host for the evening or the afternoon, Brother Red Pillar, reporting live and direct. Peace to the family. How y'all doing? Greetings. Good afternoon and whatnot. Yeah, man, we in the building. Tonight's episode is entitled Narcos in Mexico. Yeah, let's get into it. But first of all, let's go ahead and do the let's do the roll call. Let's see who's in the building. You feel me? Let's see who's in the building. All right. Shout out to everybody in the building. Okay. Peace to the family, y'all. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right. Hold on a minute. Hold on. All right, we got Charleston in the building. Charleston in the building. Mableton, Georgia in the building. We got Orlando in the building. Shout out to Orlando. You dig? We got Columbus, Ohio in the building. Lawrence, Massachusetts in the building. Hartford, Connecticut. Cincinnati. Columbus again. Yo, Columbus, y'all gonna do that citizen's arrest on homie, or we gotta pull up and do it? On Lex, y'all gonna lock Lex up when you see him. New Bedford, Massachusetts. Shout out to y'all. Okay. Shout out to 5 Mile in the building. You know what I'm talking about? And shout out to give me 1 minute. Doo-doo-doo. Let me get everything right up in here. All right. Narcos in Mexico. All right. Richmond in the building. Indianapolis in the building. Michigan in the building. Merritt Island, Florida in the building. T-Dot in the building. Southern Oregon in the building. Bangkok, Thailand in the building. You smell me? We got Bay Area in the building. DMV is in the building. Detroit is in the building. Okay. Long Beach is in the building. New Bedford, DC proper. Oh, y'all deep up in here today. Shout out to everybody, man. Oh, man. Seattle. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Harlem. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Well, I hope everybody is in good graces. You know what I mean? Good mental state, good emotional state, good economic state. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to everybody that participated in the masterclass. I did a masterclass, 3 masterclasses yesterday for the Imaginarium. It was called Techno 222. And we had a lot of people in the building. Shout out to everybody that pulled up. If you wasn't there, I believe my team is working on getting the replay, and we're gonna put the replay. Yeah, we're gonna put the replay up for the people. It don't make no sense to hold on to that source. You know what I mean? That's some source right there that the family could use. You feel me? So yeah, look out for that. That's coming. We'll be doing more workshops like that and coming up in the future. So yeah, Texas is in the building. Seattle is in the building. Okay. Boston up in this biatch. All right. I need to remind everybody that next Sunday, okay, we are going to be doing the whatchamacallit. Oh man. We will be doing next Sunday we will be doing When in Rome, the Fire Horse, the Edge of Apocalypse. Okay, we'll be doing When in Rome next, quote unquote, strong in. So make sure y'all tapped in for that. Okay, make sure y'all tapped in for that. All right. And yeah, me and Blue got a lot to talk about. It's so much going on, family. I promise you. I don't even know where to start. I really don't. I don't know where to start. It is so much going on. It's mind-boggling. However, you know, things are gonna be broken down and explained. It's a lot going on, but it's not too much going on to where we can't break it down. So, you know, we're gonna start unpacking some things. Let's get into the broadcast. We have a good early broadcast, so everybody gets to see it, you know what I'm saying, and enjoy the information. So yeah, it is what it is. All right. Yeah, let me go. Let's do this. Okay.
I let the record show. I let the tech explode. Put on the weapon show. Pull up the Texaco. NARCOS in Mexico. Call up the technical. They know the text will blow. Shot to Plexico. Turn you to vegetable. Body electrical. Acid and alkaline. Body so flexible. The shooters feast like a Uber Eats. Got a group of these suited these Cuda bees. While letting the Uzi Aruga speak. An American got up in Cuba eats. The powers they seek and powers the weak. They following creeps. Powers that be inherit the world from cowards and sheep. Been to the mountaintop towers and peaks. Flowers and sweets and showered our feet. The lightning and thunder that shower the sleep. Shower the D's. This not a verse, this our receipts. What would I do with my last breath? Would I yell? Would I cry? Would I laugh? Cause I'm glad that I'm past that mess. Till I pass, never felt that blessed. Even bad breath when you living is better than good.
Bring it back. Rewind.
Never got to hear his last breath. And the only reason I ain't passed yet, I'm the first ever and the last left. I let the record show. I let the tech explode. Put on the weapon show. Pull up the Texaco. NARCOS in Mexico. Call up the technical. They know the text will blow. Shot to Plexico. Turn you to vegetable. Body electrical. Acid and alkaline. Body so flexible. The shooters feast like a Uber Eats. Got a group of these suited these Cuda bees. While letting the Uzi Aruga speak. An American got up in Cuba eats. The powers they seek and powers the weak. They following creeps. Powers that be inherit the world from cowards and sheep. Been to the mountaintop towers and peaks. Flowers and sweets and showered our feet. The lightning and thunder that shower the sleep. Shower the D's. This not a verse, this our receipts. What would I do with my last breath? Would I yell? Would I cry? Would I laugh? Cause I'm glad that I'm past that mess. Till I pass, never felt that blessed. Even bad breath when you living is better than good breath. When you lack flesh, got a glass chest that I cracked and my lost breath hasn't made it back yet. I'm on my last breath, walking the last step. I'm on the last test, final answer and my last guess. Wonder what I gotta pass next. I'm on my last quest, so much harder than my last track. Mapless, hope I can outlast death. Grim Reaper got my address, down on my last cent. Cash spent from a check I don't even have yet from my last rent. Swear this shit has got me mad stressed. I inherited my dad's debt. Never got to hear his last breath. And the only reason I ain't passed yet, I'm the first ever in the last left.
It's like a track finish. I attract women, they the bad women. I'ma splash in them, leave a bag with them. Then I raise seeds to be mad different. If I die now, I'm coming back in them. Cause they dad missing, but they cash dripping. Cause they royalty, so they brag different. Ain't no ass kissing, never had feelings. Seen a white victim and a black witness. Mac gripping.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Shout out to Cambada Yeah, I'm talking about. Shout out to Black Magic. Shout out to Blue Pillar. Yeah, that's a classic right there. That need a visual immediately. Like that needs an AI visual for real, immediately. Like let's stop playing. You know what I'm talking about? But yeah, let's get right into it, y'all. Let's get right into it. We're gonna start cooking up. Slow motion. Let's go.
I live in one of the areas where some of these fires went down in Mexico today, and I'm telling you right now, it's a psyop. The CIA is behind the Nueva Generación cartel.
To this day.
And yeah, don't drink the Kool-Aid. They do this shit on purpose to Latin American countries all the time to cause civil unrest and cause destabilization in the country, especially when the country is standing up against the U.S. and gaining economic momentum. I live in one of the areas where some of these fires went down in Mexico today, and
she looked kind of shook. You know what I'm talking about? But I definitely wanted to start it off with that. Today's show, we're going to mainly focus on Narcos in Mexico. There's a lot of things going on, and we'll get to some of those things, but we're going to focus on this situation, do a little bit of backstory, do a little bit of fact checking, you know what I'm saying? Put certain things into perspective. You know, this is right there in the backyard. Shout out to everybody that's out there, that's from here. You know what I mean? I'm definitely making sure and putting those prayers out there, surrounding you with light and whatnot, making sure you
understand something. Mexican cartels are not just trafficking gangs anymore. They are evolving into a quasi-military organization. And that changes everything. We are now seeing documented cases of cartels using improvised explosive devices, landmines, armed drones, armed vehicles, and battlefield-style communication systems. That's not street crime. That's insurgent warfare tactics. When criminal groups adopt military doctrine, structure, and equipment, they stop functioning like gangs. They begin functioning like irregular armies. Now, here's where it gets deeper. Colombia spent decades in internal armed conflict. They created a large pool of highly trained soldiers. When some of those veterans leave the military, they don't always have economic stability waiting for them, and cartels know that. There have been documented reports of ex-Colombian military being recruited to train cartel members, especially in explosive and tactical operations. That's not ideology, that's skill transfer. Now, add another layer. Some Latin American nationals have fought in foreign conflicts, including Ukraine. That means exposure to modern drone warfare, urban combat tactics, explosive deployment methods. Even if these individuals fight abroad as volunteers, those combat skills don't disappear. When they return home, experience travels, and modern war tactics are spreading globally faster than ever. So what's happening? Cartels are adapting. They're recruiting trained fighters. They're absorbing modern battlefield knowledge. This isn't just drug trafficking anymore. It is a hybrid, decentralized warfare inside a civilian population. And if people don't understand that shift, they don't understand the risk landscape.
She conveniently did not add on who is arming these cartels, why these cartels are being armed, who is ultimately behind the proliferation of military grade weapons, flooding Mexico ever since the 90s or the late 80s, a repeat of what we saw take place in Colombia, right? Where these conquistadors and these small hats all have a hand in this destabilization. These people are in what is considered to be paradise, and they are they're going through all of these psyops, right? If you go to these Central American, South American, Latin American, even Caribbean countries, you will begin to notice that it's not just the street people, or it's not just the gangs, and it's not just the cartels that are behind a lot of the bullshit. All right. So we're going to do some deep diving. We're going to talk, we're going to build, we're going to build, we're going to We're gonna go into a little bit of a school today, some lessons and whatnot. Is there anybody on the live right now that's in Mexico that could provide a firsthand account as to what what may be going on out there? So it's not of speculation, you know what I mean? We're very aware of the fact that a lot of propaganda gets thrown around. Okay. But what is going to be exposed in this situation in Mexico, I'm very sure of, is just gonna be another domino that's gonna fall, where people are gonna have to wake up and realize that their beloved government, you feel me, this moral authority, this so-called moral authority that moves around the world, you know what I'm saying? Throwing their weight around and throwing their moral authority around and acting like they are above people. It's only going to be exposed that they play a huge part in the quote unquote narcotic drug trade, not just feeding the consumption of Americans in the USA, not just feeding the consumption, the over consumption, but actually they have a hand in creating the consumption. Okay, they have a hand in creating the consumption. You feel me? So I'm waiting for something. The primary source of weapon. Yeah. So the primary source for the weapons, that's Operation Fast and Furious, right? That was exposed many years ago. That the weapons that were being found, that were being actually used in warfare and used in these executions and a whole bunch of violence, actually were being trafficked from America cross border. It was actually a part of a cache of weapons from a government sting called Fast and Furious. And, coincidentally and conspicuously, they just wind up across the border. Now, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out what's going on. Okay. I smell three-letter organizations. I smell conquistadors. You feel me? I smell the small. I smell them small hats. You know what I mean? And it doesn't even take a long time to uncover who's behind these curtains and whatnot. Now we do know that the president, the current sitting president in Mexico, happens to be who, a small hat. It happens to be a lady who's a small hat. We showed the map recently, and we showed you how much influence Is It Real has on that region, the same region that allegedly sheltered Adolf Hitler in Argentina for many, many decades. And he also absorbed a whole bunch of those quote unquote SS soldiers from over there in Germany. Okay. Um, but yeah, this is definitely something that we'll be sitting back and observing. Is one of those cases of chickens coming home to roost. Um, you know, ultimately, and I don't even there's no inkling in me that's saying that this will happen, but ultimately the goal would be to stop the flood of narcotics into the states, right? But we know that that's not going to happen, because all they're going to do is transfer into another hand of a lackey and whatnot. This is just regime change. Okay, this is one mob going after, this is a bigger cartel going after a smaller cartel. Because there's nothing I don't give a damn how many weapons they got. I don't give a damn how many tanks in AR-15s these people have in their possession. There's nothing that they could do that's going to stop the wrath of an advanced quote unquote military operation against them. Okay. um I do want to point out that we brought up the theory months ago about why Latin America is underneath what they call Operation Southern Spear. Okay. Operation Southern Spear is the operation that you are witnessing right now. Nothing is happening haphazardly. Nothing just happened out of it's not happening in a vacuum. All of the all of the provocations that you're beginning to see in the Western Hemisphere ever since December, ever since this doctrine got put out, it falls underneath what is known as Operation Southern Spear. Okay. So Operation Southern Spear is it also doubles as an AI autonomous war or an it's an autonomous AI mission. And what does that mean? What it means is they are training and they are testing out new weapons and new autonomous weapons, autonomous drones, autonomous submarines, even autonomous robots. And they're going to use the backyard of the South of Latin America and the Caribbean as their quote unquote training ground or their playground. Okay. Because they already cut their teeth in Gaza, right? That was Palantir. Okay, that was Palantir working with the Zios, right? So they are forward marching, Magafest destiny. Okay, they're on their Magafest destiny. They're moving forward as they conquer in the name of their quote unquote God. This is the Crusades, ladies and gentlemen, only by another name. This is the Crusades only by another name. This is what you're seeing. So currently, think about it. As we speak, they have Cuba surrounded. They have a blockade on Cuba. They're literally crushing Cuba as we sit here, right? Cuba is being they're applying pressure to Cuba, and Cuba is being muscled by the by the powers that be. Okay? By Uncle Sam. You know what I'm talking about? By the great Satan. You know what I'm saying? They are attempting a regime change right now in where? Cuba, the home of the magic, okay? The home of the Palo. You feel me? The home of a lot of things that have been very resistant to this quote unquote beast. I'll just leave it at that, and then you see they're doing things in Mexico, right? And make no mistake about Mexico, and make no mistake about the cartel and some of the quote unquote heads of these cartels as to what type of magic they're working with, or what type of ancient quote unquote what type of dark magic they might be working with. When you see all of those beheadings, when you see all of those quote unquote heinous crimes that the cartels like to carry out and whatnot, yeah, um that right there is speaking highly of the work that they're doing. They get a lot of work done. They get a lot of protection. They're not just out there willy-nilly, you know what I mean, trying to figure it out. A lot of them have protection. A lot of them have covering. A lot of them are doing they're doing what they got to do. Um and that's something that these Christians and these crusaders have always rallied against and whatnot. Let me pull up this. I put together a presentation and whatnot. I threw some things together. So let me go ahead and pull that up so we could get into it and whatnot. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. There we go. All right.
System.
Doo-doo. Let me see. All right. Let's get into it, y'all. Santa Muerte. Santa Muerte. Yeah, they got you know how niggas got trap guards? They got trap guards in Mexico. Like they pray to the trap gods. They give it up. You know what I mean? You know, American God up in Cuba eats when they start sending niggas up. You know what I mean? They sending body. They not killing roosters. They killing the enemies. You feel me? So let's get into it. This immediately, as soon as I heard Mexico pop up, the show that we did a few days ago immediately popped up in my mind when we did the show about the fire horse reading. So when I did the breakdown about the fire horse, okay, and the fire horse apocalypse, there are certain things that happen when the quote unquote calendar was the fire horse year. When the Chinese were observing the fire horse, there was the Mexican American War. Okay. So this took place during the fire horse years, right? So the first provocation, the minute that the fire horse pops in, is Mexico and America are literally going back at it, right? So this was a very significant war, ladies and gentlemen. This war had profound implications in terms, just in regards to America becoming America, or the USA absolving or capturing, right, more territories, right? More territories. So this war dealt with the forming of America as we know it today, right? This took place, it popped off in Texas, okay? And it was an invasion of Mexico by the United States, all right? April 25th, 1846, right? So in 1846 was the last, you know what I mean? That's when we have that connection with the fire horse year, right? This war created the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, right? It ended the war. Mexico recognized the cession of present-day Texas, California, Nevada, Utah, as well as parts of present-day Arizona, Colorado, New Mexico, and Wyoming, right? The U.S. agreed to pay $15 million for the physical damage of the war, and they assumed $3.5 million of debt already owed by the Mexican government. So keep in mind, the Mexico that they might have been talking about is not a Mexico that you know of today. If you go into Mexico and you see the Moorish architecture, you see the you see all of the architecture, you see the beautiful. Just think about all of the things that were destroyed when these gringos took over, right? When they took over Nevada, Utah, Arizona, Colorado, New Mexico, Wyoming, and whatnot. Just think about what they cleansed and cleaned. Just think about what they pillaged. Just think about all of the erasure that took place when these lands were absorbed, right? So when people look for the ancient land and they like, what happened and what's going on? Well, yeah, Peru, according to our good brother Horace Butler, right? According to a few other scholars, right? They put out a lot of information. This was 30 to 40 years ago, okay? And even before that. So let us continue. The land is called Aztlan. And we've done some videos also about the history of Mexico, the unique history of Mexico that the average American doesn't even know. They don't even know how many tribes exist in Mexico. They don't even call it Mexico in Mexico. Me and Blue Pill had a classic video from 2012 when we went to Cozumel. We went to the pyramids, KTL cruise. It was a 7-day cruise for KTL, for the KTLians. And we went to Cozumel. We got on the bus. We had Carlos. Carlos was our guide. And when Carlos saw that it was a bus full of morenos or Moors, he dropped the quote unquote mask. He dropped the routine and went right to it. Yo, he looked around. He was like, yeah, I'm going off script. The Olmecs are the mother civilization. We don't call ourselves Mexicans. We don't identify with that Mexican. We are Aztecs. We are quote unquote Mayans. And he was saying some other things. And he was breaking it down. He was like, you're the mother civilization. We got it all on film. It's on Know the Ledge. You know what I mean? So, and yeah. So this is the fire horse year, right? The fire horse year, 1846 and all of that. Okay. This was about the war, right?
Saturday, February 28th, when in Rome, prepare for the fire horse apocalypse featuring twin pillars, red and the blue pills. Witness the glory of the fire horse blazing at the edge of apocalypse.
Yes, indeed. Don't forget, coming up on Sunday. No, Saturday. We in the building. You know what I'm talking about? So El Mencho, right? People don't even know who El Mencho is, but El Mencho, okay? He was like the Tony Montana. Okay, he took over after El Chapo got taken up out of here. They locked up El Chapo, and then El Mencho, you know what I mean? He came to the forefront and whatnot. Okay, and you know, his cartel has been running shit. So let's just see how El Mencho.
Hey, ¿quién habla? Mira bien, hijo de tu puta madre. Soy Mencho, güey. Relaja tu puta gente a la verga. Soy Mencho, güey. Relaja tus putas partidas, si no te voy a partir tu madre tía toda tu bola de perros. Te tengo identificado 30 güeyes. Hasta tus putos perros te voy a matar si no te relajas, güey.
He do not sound like dudes that be at my niggas at Home Depot. They don't got that type of bass in their voice. They don't even talk like that.
¿Cómo ves?
Ya está, señor, ahorita los bajo.
Oh, no cuelgues, hijo de la verga. Te tengo ubicados en Chacala, güey.
No le estoy colgando, le estoy diciendo, ahorita los bajo.
Póngase bien las pilas, güey. ¿Qué se le cuesta ser amigo, cabrón? ¿Uno no se mete con ustedes para que se pasen de verga?
No, señor, ahorita yo se las bajo.
Pongan, mire, revíremeles a todos los hijos de su puta madre, porque todos agarran dinero y son buenos de puercos.
Sí, es lo que me están diciendo.
¿Se me ponen a tiros o tú eres el primero que vas a marchar por ellos, León?
No, señor.
This nigga's grabbing his nuts, bro. El Mencho is grabbing his, man, talking crazy to homie. What's going on?
¿Vale?
No, señor, no se trata de eso.
Váyase a la verga porque aquí los vergazos están al 220, ya se la sabe. Y miedo no hay.
No, señor, no se trata de eso. Ahorita yo lo sabe.
Entonces, si quiere amistad, aquí va a tener un amigazo, cabrón. Si no, a chingar a su madre a la verga.
No, yo sé, señor.
Ya estoy hasta la verga de que no entiendan, loco.
Señor, usted me conoce, usted sabe que yo soy amistad.
Pues por eso me extraña, cabrón. Yo te entiendo, güey, pero pues no mames, yo sé que tienes gente y la familia de chingada. Verga, póngase las putas pilas.
Yo lo sé, señor.
No quiero que me apagues este puto teléfono. Después te voy a marcar.
Them gringos is cuckoo for messing with these niggas. Them gringos is crazy, man. I don't know what the fuck.
Güey, a ver si no se relajaron a la verga, ¿eh?
No, ahorita le voy a marcar.
A todos en general, güey. Relájenmelos a la verga, por favor.
Ahorita le voy a marcar de otro número, a este número que me está marcando.
No, este ya no le vuelvas a marcar. Yo le marco cuando yo pueda.
Ándale, pues.
Pero no me lo apague porque lo voy a entender como negatividad.
No, señor. Ahorita le mando un mensaje de otro número para que no marque el otro.
Órale, pues, Melón. Ahí les quiero eso, que se relajen a la verga.
Sí, señor.
So as we all know, and if we don't know, there is the cartels run the quote unquote municipalities. They bought out the police. They are in bed with the government, and it is assumed by many people that they're in bed with the alphabet letter boys. More importantly, the what they would call the rat line and what people call the deep state. But those would be those letter boys. Those would be the 3-letter boys and whatnot. You feel me? So you know, you can't trust anything that you see, anything that you hear. It could all be a distraction because these people literally work together. Okay? These people literally work together. So you can't trust anything at this point, especially with the news is telling us. Okay. So 2026 is the year of the fire horse. Here's what happened in the past fire horse years, so we could prepare ourselves, right? China in 1966, you had the China Revolution. It led to China opening to the West, right? Fire, reform, change. 1906, the San Francisco earthquake destroyed the city and led to rebuilding of the city. Fire, reform, change. In 1846, the U.S.-Mexican War, it led to the U.S. owning Cali, Nevada, Utah, Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, Wyoming. Fire, reform, change. 1786, U.S. rebels. It led to the creation of the Constitution. Fire, reform, change. 1666, London burned down and destroyed. It led to the rebuilding of London. Fire, reform, change, right? So we're dealing with fire, reform, change, transmutation by fire, purification by fire, right? That's what we're looking at in this year. This is how it's starting out.
Usted me conoce, usted sabe que hay respeto y hay amistad. Nada más.
Ya está, igualmente, de aquí para allá también. Ahí disculpe por las malas palabras.
Aquí los muchachos son los que están allá y ahorita yo se los agrupo.
Ahora pues, ahí le encargo.
Ándale, sí.
Ahí relájenmelos a todos, dígale que va de parte mía.
Tell them to fall back, and that's an order from me. Now, if you want to say that you got power, you gotta be able to talk like that. I guess I'm not in that life. You know what I'm talking about? I watch Netflix, and I'm figuring if you want to talk like you, if niggas running around like they got power, you got to be able to talk to the authorities like that. That don't sound like hands up, don't shoot. That don't sound like are we there yet? That don't sound like my Black Life Matter. That don't sound like that passive shit that niggas did when Zimmerman murked the young boy, right? That don't sound like that. That don't sound like all of the passiveness that so-called gangsters and these fake tough guys did when the police was leaning on them. That don't sound like that. You understand? So once again, it's a difference. And people around the world, they peep that, oh, these niggas ain't built like that. There's a difference. They moving real wacky. You know what I mean? They moving real scary in the States. We don't move like that. Niggas in the favelas don't move like that. The cartel don't move like that. People they not moving like that in other places. If it's up, it's up. But this whole entire racket that they got going on, right? That has claimed so many lives. They has destroyed so much progress. And there's nothing, in my humble opinion, that's being done is going to help the indigenous melanated people in Mexico, in Colombia, and all of those places come up and level up and whatnot. None of this shit aids in that. Okay? I'm not sticking my nose in nobody's business, but you know, you gotta let the trash take the trash out, right? So their whole thing is they feel double crossed because they let America come up in there and murk their boy. They let America come up in there and take out one of their quote unquote leaders when there's been a deal between the alphabet boys, Is It Real, America, the cartels. They all work together. They're all part of the same thing. They're destabilizing everybody that's trying to, they will murk you if you try to stand up and get the rights for Black people in Mexico. You try to get the rights for melanated people in these places where the church is running shit. If you try to stand up against the colonial powers and whatnot, they gonna pay the cartels and the gangs to murk you, bro. That's what they do. Look how Jamaica, how they had those political Ciega and all of them, had all of the gangsters and the gangs, the shower posse and all of that under their thumb, right? So the shower posse from Jamaica almost did the equivalent of what a Ricky, of what Homie did in Compton. The shower posse was working with the CIA, with Ciega in Jamaica, and they brought a lot of that crack and shit like that to the East Coast. In the murder, in the Uzis, in the gunplay, all of that. It wasn't white boy Hatcher. You know what I'm talking about? Well, we saw that happen. That was in the 80s and whatnot. They don't really harp on that. But these are CIA operations. CIA are the government that gets with the gangsters. The CIA is the niggas that look the other way when the gangsters body shit. You know what I mean? And they are the ones that are in bed with they rub shoulders with the streets. They rub shoulders with the underworld. They rub shoulders with the motherfucking killers. Okay. NATO just hit Russia's nuclear plants. Oh, well, you know what that means. You know? Fire horse year. You know, shit is up. You know what I'm talking about? And then we also got the Iran shit hanging in the wind and whatnot with that provocation, with the provocation over there, with them talking about they're gonna strike them on Tuesday. You know? Yeah. Them Israeli weapons seem to find themselves in a lot of melanated hands. So right off the bat, and we'll get to this as we get through this lecture, you already know, Is It Real is taking over Latin America. And they're using their quote unquote big bully brothers, America, because this is America's backyard. Is It Real couldn't lean on Latin America? Is It Real couldn't be leaning on Mexico and shit just be all right? No, Is It Real couldn't do that, but they could make America do it. You see how that works? Is It Real couldn't just go to Venezuela and Netanyahu is on a plane with Maduro headed back to Tel Aviv. People start rioting and whatnot. They're gonna ask too many questions and whatnot. But put that nigga in a Nike Tech and fly him to Brooklyn. Oh yeah, we'll go for that. You know what I'm talking about? We'll go for that. So they took over Venezuela, they took over Argentina, they took over Mexico. Now they coming after Colombia, they coming after Cuba, they coming after Bolivia. Remember, these are the states that were dealing with socialism and a little hint of a little bit of communism sprinkled in there type shit. You know what I'm talking about? These states inside, they want to checkmate the entire Latin America. They want to take the entire piece, the greatest state. They want to checkmate the greatest state. They want the whole damn thing. So just to show you that this whole shit, they've been dirty. It's not, they didn't just start getting dirty. This Mexico spill out and whatnot, that's like a hamper that's overflowing. That nigga, it been dirty. They been doing dirt. They hands been dirty over there. You know what I'm saying? We not gonna play like this shit is just coming out of nowhere. No, the whole world. Look at these vultures in action. Look at these gangsters in action. You know what I'm saying? That's your boys in them. I bet you Stephen Miller is behind all of this. But look at these Europeans in action. They don't got no shame. Okay? With they colonialism tactics. We're gonna get into this whole Epstein connection and whatnot. You know his dirty hands is all up in Mexico. He done ran through that bitch. You know what I'm saying? So this is the aftermaths of them running through and burning shit down, right? 8 Mexicans killed in U.S. attacks on 2 drug boats off the Pacific coast. This is February the 23rd, ladies and gentlemen. So what they were doing in Venezuela, right? Operation Southern Spear. They're doing it in Mexico. They're shifting it over to Mexico and whatnot. These drone attacks. You don't know who's being killed on them damn boats. They can't even prove that those people that they're extradition. That you. How could you kill somebody on a boat and that what is that? Where does that come from? Where does that come from? You know? That don't even make sense. You can't just declare somebody an enemy combat. Oh, well, you can if you deemed them to be domestic terrorists. And that is exactly what happened in around December or November when the Trump administration went ahead and they redesignated the cartels as enemy combatants. And what does enemy combatants mean? Enemy combatants basically says that your ass is a walking target. You're a green light. You could get drawn. You don't gotta go to court. We don't have to. You basically is on site. That's what that means. If you get deemed an enemy combatant, a domestic terrorist, that means that it's on site. They have the right to take your ass out. And the crazy thing, let's get into Operation Southern Spear, and let's read what this is about so we can have a better understanding as to how they're moving and whatnot. Operation Southern Spear is a United States military and surveillance campaign. Remember when I said, man, I'm going into the rainforest, I'm going into the Amazon, but Spirit is telling me that these people are surveilling the entire area through what they call that Starlink, the satellites. I'm like, yeah, they're surveilling us. They're surveilling the whole entire Caribbean with these new satellites and other things. You know, people were like, they was looking for Leviathan. I don't know if Leviathan hit the snooze button and didn't wake up, but I don't know what, I don't know. I just don't, I know that they out there surveilling shit, and they damn sure are not surveilling some fishing boats. That's not what they not out there for fishing boats, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. So it's a surveillance program launched in 2025 by the administration of Trump with the declared aims of detecting, disrupting, and degrading transnational criminal and illicit maritime networks, right? Some analysts say that the operation is a hybridization of the war on terror and the war on drugs. Others have said that removal of Nicolas Maduro from power in Venezuela was the objective of the operation, right? We know that that's not the case because they're still carrying on the operation, right? They're still carrying on the operation. It was not about Maduro. It's about taking over that entire region, right? It's about conquering and recolonizing that entire region so they could pillage all of the resources. They just like, fuck that. We tired of playing nice and we're tired of negotiating. So the reason why you see the cartels going crazy, look at this article. New U.S. military-led group aided Mexico's hunt for El Mencho cartel boss. So the same way that when I was watching Narcos, they had an episode where the cartel killed the narco, a DEA agent, right? And after they killed the narco, the DEA went rogue, right? They went rogue and whatnot, and they basically formed an entire new unit. And this unit was sort of like how when they formed TNT in New York City after they killed Edward Barnes, what was it? The police that they murked in Queens, the Fat Cat and all of them, and Pappy Mason. When they executed that rookie police, they formed TNT after that, right? They got weaponized, they got militarized, They got radicalized, and TNT carried out a whole bunch of atrocities on the hood after that, right? In the TV show Narcos, after they killed the DEA agent, they went rogue and they started spanking them niggas, right? So now we're looking at the same thing where underneath Trump's orders, they formed this new military-led group. Now you got to look at that with a side eye. A military-led group. Okay. What's that about? Right? We're talking about these are sort of like death squads now, right? These are the new elite death squads. They're using technology. They have universal soldier technology. They're using big tech, Facebook, Palantir, all of them. This is ICE on ICE. So this will be ICE on ICE. This special group that they have, this will be ICE on ICE. You feel me? This is probably the same group that knocked off all of the security guards that were protecting, quote unquote, Maduro. They said it was 20 men and they killed 300 men in a matter of minutes, right? 20 of them killed about 300 Russians and shit like that, and Cuban soldiers. And they sent the Cuban soldiers back in boxes. Okay. I saw them at the airport in Cuba returning the remains. Them niggas was carrying boxes, like little boxes, not even no big boxes. They was carrying shit in their hands. Okay. So they got a different group. They have their own version of, they got a new level of Delta Force out there. Probably the IDF mixed in with some ICE soldiers and shit like that, right? So Donald Trump, unbeknownst to a lot of people, he declared the quote unquote, they declared the Trump Corollary. I might be pronouncing that wrong. Let me see. Right? He made this announcement out of nowhere around the time of December, right? And what it was him basically putting out a new edict as to what the goals of America was. This was right around the time when Traore and them was kicking out France. America realized they didn't have a lot of footing in that in that hemisphere and whatnot, in the global south. So they kind of licked their wounds and retreated, right? They retreated and they were like, you know what? We're going to focus on we're going to focus on the Americas. We're going to focus on conquering the Americas, our backyard, the Western Hemisphere. We're going to take that over, right? We're going to lock that down because, you know, we ain't going to have Russia and China and all of these other ops coming over to South America and they're in our backyard and whatnot. And once again, the Sahel region and what they're doing is a domino effect that the powers that be are very, very intimidated and scared of. You got to understand that part. Anytime that you see the revolutions in Africa, whether it be small or major, that has a lot of, you know, of course, if there was revolution in fucking America, they you know what I mean? Like, they are on high alert. They don't want nobody getting no goddamn they don't want nobody getting no, what they call it, no bad ideas. They don't want anybody to be influenced by what they're seeing. So Trump trend to revive, and basically is a doctrine that they put out. It's a part of imperialistic paperwork, and it's basically putting the whole continent of America on notice, okay, to basically say that the United States of America has hegemony over that entire region, and, you know, they are not going to just allow their ops in their backyard. So the Trump administration has a new name for its aggressive policies in the Western Hemisphere, including military attacks on alleged drug smugglers and threats of regime change in Venezuela. His administration is reaching back 2 centuries, ladies and gentlemen, and calling this Trump's version of the Monroe Doctrine. Now, keep in mind, what this administration does a lot is that they reach back in time. This is a time traveling administration. Okay. They invoke, right? When they go back in time, they invoke. These are crusaders, right? These are crusaders who are doing their best to summon the quote unquote, the spirit or the soul or the energy of their forefathers who basically allegedly put in work and whatnot. And this is what they're summoning, similar to how somebody would summon a saint, or similar to how you would summon a martyr at war and whatnot. You know what I'm talking about? Similar to how you would summon a martyr. New York City just had a power outage. Yikes. Okay. Yes, the Gulf of America was the first. That was the first stone thrown. Remember, he got right into office and he went right after it. Gulf of America. I'm talking about Gulf of America. So they want to, the power grid in New York City went down. Are you serious? What the helly? Yeah. Y'all better get y'all bug out bags. Y'all better get y'all bug out bags. You feel me? Shit is real. That's why they still, and yeah, antiquities, they definitely want that. The antiquities are sort of what's the word? Consecrated, right? The antiquities are consecrated. Okay. Yeah. They have the travel ban. They have the travel ban on Burkina Faso. They have the travel ban on the Sahel region. You cannot go there, ladies and gentlemen. And then they turned around and banned Americans for coming in there, but you can't go there. And it's assumed that when America put the ban on the region, whoever was inside of there had to leave. Okay. But yeah, you can't go to the Sahel region right now. They don't want nobody getting radicalized. They don't want nobody going in there and seeing how that country is thriving. They don't want nobody to show the rest of the world that they're thriving. You feel me? They want you to only see after they put whole siege on you and they put sanctions on you, and they'll turn the cameras on when the people are going through famine, when the people are going through genocide, when the people are civilly, when there's a civil war. All of that they're gonna show, but they're not gonna show the progress. They're not gonna show black men and black women, melanated people sticking their chest out because they making progress on their own. Oh hell no. That's like their kryptonite. That's like their kryptonite. So they're pushing the Monroe Doctrine inside of Latin America, and everybody in Latin America knows what that means. And in my humble opinion, they kind of welcome in the gringo, and not everybody, but you know, I don't know if there's even going to be a lot of pushback to it. You know, there's little information about. So these are the people. This is the task force that jumped out and killed the cartel, right? So these are the new hitmen. These are the new quote unquote. These are the new crusaders. By these are the new crusaders. It's the U.S. Joint Interagency Task Force Counter Cartel, or JITF-CC. The initials, they have the that sounds like a cartel in the making. That sounds like a cartel in the making. That sounds like cartel acronyms. JITF-CC. they gang banging. You know what I'm talking about? They gang banging. Nigga, this is a new cartel. The website says that its goal is to identify, disrupt, and dismantle cartel operations posing a threat to the United States along the U.S.-Mexico border. Yeah, right. The Brigadier General Mauricio Calabrese, who leads the task force, spoke to Reuters this month about how the U.S. military is channeling its experience battling groups like Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State to map out cartel networks. The cartels operate differently than Al-Qaeda or ISIS. Different motivations, what makes it even more important for us to identify entire networks so that we could disrupt and dismantle them. Now, it came out, right, in the Epstein emails, and it came out before that that the CIA and the Alphabet Boys were behind ISIS, and they were behind quote unquote Al-Qaeda, even to the point where they put one of them in power in Syria. So miss me with the bullshit. I don't see them planning against a war with the cartels. You got to be careful how these people work. Like I said, when I went in South America and when I was in Latin America and I came back running to the people, I said, man, they raising an army to go against our people, man. That's what I felt. I feel that the cartel is against black people. I feel that the cartel is in bed with the church. I feel that the cartel is another wing of the conquistadors and the crusaders. That's what I felt. I was in Putumayo where they grew a lot of coca over the time. This is where Pablo and them was getting the coca from. I was right on the mountains, and that's what Spirit told me. All that Bad Bunny, be very wary of some of these people who have usurped your history and have nigga gripes. The Joint Interagency Task Force Counter Cartel, right? It involves multiple government agencies. More than likely, the people in ISIS is all through that shit, all filtered. Homeland Security, all of them people that the small hats have trained. You know what I mean? The cartels are kamikaze. Yes, they are. So this is the president, ladies and gentlemen. This is the small hat president that they got in Mexico. It was alleged. It was alleged. Right? The sound is going in and out. All right, hold on. Damn it. Check. How we sounding? You said it's heavy chopped up? Indeed. Okay. So this right here is a small hat. Okay. Claudia Scheinbaum. And it's been alleged that a lot of people lost their life. A lot of her opposition when she was running for president. Okay. It was said that a lot of people got knocked off, and it's been said that she's in bed with them people, right? So she's a small hat, and she has she's pledging allegiance to the small hats. I'm sure of that. I'm sure that she's not pledging allegiance to the Afro Mexicans. You know what I'm talking about? I'm sure she's not pledging allegiance to the same melanated people that founded Mexico, 44 of them. I'm sure she's not helping them out. So once again, don't let the media push all of this sudden things about violence just because it's in a resort town. They've been knocking people off. There's a 400% increase in crime in 2025 out there. You feel me? 400% increase. You dig? So the shit been destabilized. This is a backyard for the deep state. This is a backyard for the deep state. Okay? These are the drug cartel areas in Mexico. Right? The shit is flooded. Okay? The shit is flooded. Right? Small armies that have been supported by America. Make no mistake about it. They just didn't come out of nowhere. Okay? This is El Yogurt. I believe that's El Yogurt. They said that the nigga that took over for El Mencho is El Yogurt. You got to look out for El Yogurt. He's on the way. He's coming up. He done, you know what I mean? He done hit his lick. El Yogurt, my niggas. They were saying that this El Mencho dude is the equivalent to Mexico's Pablo and whatnot. Okay? They saying that he's the equivalent to a Mexican Pablo. You dig? I doubt it. I highly doubt it. You know? But yeah. El Yogurt. Okay? This is El Mencho when he was a little nigga. You know? This is El Mencho as a tadpole. You know what I'm talking about? He look like Tego Calderon or one of them niggas. You know? Youngin. So, yeah, I know they the ops. Yeah, I know that they the ops. I know they the Oppingtons. You feel me? Henceforth, why they may have been taken out, right? By you know who.
You need to understand something. Mexican cartels are not just trafficking gangs anymore. They are evolving into a quasi-military organization. That changes everything. We are now seeing documented cases of cartels using improvised explosive devices, landmines, armed drones, armed vehicles, and battlefield-style communication systems. That's not street crime. That's insurgent warfare tactics. When criminal groups adopt military doctrine, structure, and equipment, they stop functioning like gangs. They begin functioning like irregular armies. Now, here's where it gets deeper. Colombia spent decades in internal armed conflict. They created a large pool of highly trained soldiers. When some of those veterans leave the military, they don't always have economic stability waiting for them, and cartels know that. There have been documented reports of ex-Colombian military being recruited to train cartel members, especially in explosive and tactical operations. That's not ideology, that's skill transfer. Now, add another layer. Some Latin American nationals have fought in foreign conflicts, including Ukraine. That means exposure to modern drone warfare, urban combat tactics, explosive deployment methods. Even if these individuals fight abroad as volunteers, those combat skills don't disappear. When they return home, experience travels, and modern war tactics are spreading globally faster than ever. So what's happening? Cartels are adapting. They're recruiting trained fighters. They're absorbing modern battlefield knowledge. This isn't just drug trafficking anymore. It is a hybrid, decentralized warfare inside a civilian population. And if people don't understand that shift, they don't understand the risk landscape.
So by now, everyone knows that the Mexican government carried out an operation today that killed the leader of the biggest cartel in the world. Nemesio Cervantes, or better known as El Mencho, the leader of Cartel Jalisco Nueva Generación, was killed today during an operation. Now, this has reintroduced the conversation of the U.S. having to intervene in Mexico because the cartels did not respond well. They set various vehicles on fire. There were a lot of reports of gas stations being blown up, and the message that was sent by the cartel to the Mexican citizens telling them to stay inside because even if they were innocent and they weren't related to the cartels, they would be killed. Now, I want to offer a perspective because a lot of people are pointing the finger at the Mexican government, and that's a conversation that we can have another time. But I want to remind everybody how the cartels got so powerful and why it's been so hard for the Mexican government to take them down. Now, all last year, we heard Trump say that the U.S. needed to go in and basically eradicate the cartels, that they needed to go in and send soldiers or do aerial strikes to make sure that the cartels weren't driving drugs into the country. Now, Presidenta Claudia Sheinbaum has reiterated on several occasions that she's willing to receive the U.S. help, but in a way that doesn't violate their sovereignty. That is, we don't want boots on the ground in Mexico. We'll take your help through intel and other ways, but you will not be stepping foot into Mexico. Now, one thing that La Presidenta Claudia has said that she wants the U.S. to do is to finally address its consumption problem. See, Trump has taken to Truth Social several times to say that the cartels are bad for the U.S., but at no point has anyone in his administration or himself admitted that the U.S. has a consumption problem or have done anything to really address it. The other thing that she's brought up is how a lot of the cartels get their weapons from U.S. manufacturers and how the U.S. is also not doing anything about that. Just this February, the New York Times came out with a report that found that a lot of the ammunition, specifically 50 caliber ammo, was manufactured here in the U.S. by a manufacturer that also gave ammunition to the U.S. military. Now, this ammunition is sold in the civilian market, but through straw purchases has made its way into the hands of the Mexican cartels. There was also a report a couple years ago that pointed to a U.S. military base, Fort Bragg, and deemed it Fort Bragg Cartel, because apparently a lot of the special forces units that were there were actually in cahoots with the Mexican cartel. Now, this isn't new. See, if you remember the Zetas, which were a very dangerous cartel that in their time, and they still exist right now, they're just not as powerful as before, they've splintered, but in their time, they used to post execution videos all through the dark web and the regular internet, and they were one of the most vicious cartels in that time. Now, they were trained by U.S. military special forces, the Green Berets, and after they received that training, they became the cartel. They were originally a special task unit from the Mexican military, but they got trained by the Green Berets, so the U.S. military had something to do in the creation of that. Another report from a couple of years ago cited how the ATF carried out and failed an operation called Fast and Furious, where they allowed a couple of civilians known to be straw purchasers and were allowed to purchase the weapons. And the goal of the ATF was to find out what cartel members were basically buying these weapons, these trafficked weapons. Well, they lost them. And mind you, the Mexican government knew nothing about this operation, so there wasn't a collaboration in any sense. And the weapons were lost. And they ended up in some crime scenes later on from this operation. So it was a failed operation. The moral of the story is that if you really want to eradicate the cartels, you have to cut their feet off. You have to take away their weapons, and you have to take away their finances. As long as a drug market exists, there's going to be another organization that takes their place. Even if the Mexican government and the U.S. government were able to eliminate the cartels, another organized crime would step foot in their place. If you remember when the DEA took down Pablo Escobar, the Colombian cartels that were trafficking all of the cocaine and the drugs into the U.S., after they took him out, that whole organization splintered into several other organizations that were fighting for power. And then eventually the Mexican cartels took over those drug routes in the drug market. And so while they want to keep feeding this propaganda to us that the only way to get rid of the cartels is the U.S. going into Mexico, the U.S. should take some accountability and take away their guns and the market and address the drug consumption problem that we have in this country. Until they do that, they're basically spinning us a fake lie.
Pinche 20, a ver si muy verga, te topas con nosotros. Ahí tengo desamarrados los perros, culero. Y así voy a andar patrullando. De tu puta madre. Órale, vente, hijo de tu puta madre. Bríncale a la verga. Bríncale al toro, perro.
Come on, fam. They got these niggas running around looking like a whole army unit, and this is not.
A lot of these cartel operators are actually American born, American raised, don't even speak Spanish. One of the main guys that we featured in our episode goes by the name of El Gringo. He was born in the United States, doesn't speak a word of Spanish, and he's sort of a wholesale distributor for the cartel. And he realized he could do it. He could distribute the drugs really well. He was really good with logistics. And do you know how he distributes the drugs? They come in 90% of the time as official ports of entry. So it's not going
sneaking through the woods or something, or tying it to like a deer and having them run over the border or whatever.
Right. Or little kids with backpacks. That happens as well. But most of it is official ports of entry. And then once it gets to the big cities and then gets distributed by guys like this, who also operate of small town America, he's using actually commercial planes where he puts the drugs inside suitcases and has people like strippers.
Wow.
And never think that, right? I was thinking trucks or vans full of drugs, or the white vans full of drugs or something. No, it's actually in planes. A lot of times he says he uses Delta as his favorite airline.
Delta is a great airline. I will say that, but I didn't know. I didn't know the skies were that.
Yeah, they still smuggling on them planes, but nah, they bringing them shits in on them on them boats, on them ships.
Friendly, I mean, they could get hella friendly if somebody's shipping Molly up there, I feel like.
To Mexico. You said they like ice at this point. Hell yeah. So this the level of shit that they working with is crazy. Let me see. So here are, once again, these are a break. This is a map of the cartels. If you visit in Mexico, you might want to know where you're going and what cartel might be in that area, I guess. You know what I mean? Because I always ask that question. Yo, is the cartel around? Where are we going? Like, is niggas shooting and whatnot? Because I don't want to be around none of that. The United States arms the Mexican cartels. All right? The same way that the United States arms everybody else to carry out heinous crimes. They arm the Israelis. They arm niggas in the hood. They arm the cartels. You know what I mean? These guns are cursed. The biggest export is weapons of warfare. Thank you, America. So now they popping out with these anti-drone weapon. Now, also, warfare and conflict, it uses technology. Technology is able to be introduced when you identify problems like a heavily armed cartel that's armed like an army. Now you have the right to roll out drones. You can roll out robots, because they said that they don't want American boots on the ground, but they didn't say that they couldn't use drones, and they didn't say that they couldn't use robots. So them robot dogs from Boston Dynamics and shit like that, those drones, yeah, I think that that's going to be something that you're going to see introduced into this conflict. So once again, the arresting and the locking up, this is something that's sort of like it's like cards for them. You know what I mean? It's like some of it is like a soap opera, some of it is arranged and whatnot. Okay, and then some of it is, but the majority of this shit is put together It's all, you know what I mean? It's been worked out behind the scenes and whatnot. You know, sometimes one or two gotta go down. You feel me? But these are the areas, you know, it seems like it is a plague. It doesn't really look like there's gonna be much, because if they go to war with the cartel and they say we going to war, they did declare war on the cartel already, and them killing El Mencho is basically a part of the war. So they're in war right now. Okay, they're in war. They're at war with Mex. So when they say that we are at war with the cartels, this is what they talking about. This is what they talking about. Okay. So that's a lot of war. But what they don't mention, or what I haven't seen the news mention, is anything about the Epstein connections, and we're gonna get into that as we close this out. As you can see, this is not a drug dealing cartel anymore. This is an army. This is not a cartel anymore. This is the military. You know, uniforms create uniformity. Their uniforms are that of a paramilitary operation and organization. I don't see cartel in that. Okay, so just think about the Hegelian dialect that's going to be used by these people and whatnot, by the gringos, to invade that land and to go, you know, and to basically unleash um weapons of a higher caliber than what you may be used to seeing and whatnot. So this is the person right here who they basically say this is he's from the Los Zetas, right? The Gulf Cartel, and his plea deal with the quote unquote government, the US government, he turned states and whatnot. And his plea deal was one of the reasons why a lot of the bloodshed started happening. Once the cartels realized the other cartels saw that he turned states, the Zetas, they declared, they declared war on the Zetas, on the Zetas or the Zetas. Okay. Um, yeah. And the shit backfired, you know what I mean? And it caused a lot of bloodshed, a lot of splintering of these cartels, and it's spun out of control. You know what I'm talking about? Okay, it spun out of control, right? So you got El Chapo, El Mencho, you know, all of these L's and whatnot, right? Going all the way back. They've been doing this. This is not new. They've been doing this. They've been shutting down shit. They've been bodying shit. They've been having shootouts. You know, they've been having that. The Fort Bragg, they call it the Fort Bragg cartel, right? Isn't that right in South Carolina? The Fort Bragg cartel. You know what I mean? They're tied in with the cartel. They're tied in with them people. They going to pick up them trailers and whatnot. You feel me? They going to pick up them loads and whatnot. They tied in with North Carolina. They tied in with them boys. Make no mistake about it. So also what wasn't mentioned is the fact that they had just closed down the airspace, okay, over El Paso. They put out something about a week ago that said that they needed to close it down for about a week, right? So there was speculation that they were cleaning out the Zorro Ranch and whatnot. Okay. Then there's also speculation that Ryan Wedding, who's down with he was a part of the Sonola, who was the ops of El Mencho, right? They're saying that he may have played a part in giving up El Mencho and whatnot. That's just a little bit of rumor mill. Okay. So this story right here is about a crooked mercenary named Richard Marcinko, right? He's a Navy SEAL commander, a former U.S. Navy SEAL commander, I believe, and he turned mercenary, and he was tied in with Epstein allegedly. Okay, he died already in 2021, but his name comes up because he was tied into hiding out. He was hiding a lot of they basically found thousands of tapes or footage and whatnot, videos and whatnot that tied in Epstein and a whole bunch of some people out there in Mexico. So those tapes are still hanging around, and according to some of my sources, the people who had possession of those tapes, they were blackmailing or trying to blackmail, trying to release those tapes, and that's when a lot of shit also started to break out. Okay, this was some emails that were being sent by a detective that was in Mexico. He was basically doing some research on a child's sex ring, and his emails, there's about 4 or 5 of his emails. He was basically saying that their lives are being threatened. They're being shot at. His cousin had his arm shot off. They killed a few people. They wounded 5 American agents. He's basically saying that in Mexico, it was just filtered with CIA, secret agents, and all type of dirty people who are working in the background to stop these investigations from happening and whatnot, protecting powerful people. So you have these quote unquote sick people who operate right outside of the borders. They in the Caribbean, they're in Latin America, they're in Mexico. They go outside of the quote unquote United States of America. Well, they still do their dirt in the USA, but they went to the Virgin Islands. They went to St. James Islands. They went to St. John's Island. They go to they go to all of these different places to do their dirt. Okay. They go and bury their money in the Caymans and whatnot, and they go and do their dirt on these islands, and their money works. It goes longer on these islands. You could throw around a few $1,000s and you could buy a cartel. Okay. You could throw around a few $1,000s and you could get somebody knocked off, a few $100s. So they're able to throw around influence, the gringo money, gringo military power, all of that CIA undergirdings that they have, the links with the cartel, they got the links with the cartels, then the cartel is linked to the government, then the government is linked to the USA, then the US, all of those rat lines. Okay. So there was a case that took place where a U.S. embassy, somebody from the U.S. embassy, right? There was a huge cover up. Okay. That's the dude, Richard Marcinko. He was a mercenary. He's a piece of shit. Okay. He's been doing a lot of dirt in Mexico, and he was covering for Jeffrey and whatnot. Right now, this is the piece of shit right here who got caught. He basically got tried and convicted. This is a U.S. Official and whatnot in Mexico. He shows up in the Epstein files, and he basically bribed a Mexican judge to allow a U.S. Marine to serve a life sentence for him because he got 11-year-old pregnant, right? This was a U.S. ambassador to Mexico. Okay, this was a U.S. ambassador to Mexico. His DNA matches the child 100%. He was able to convince the judge to allow a U.S. Marine to serve his life sentence. What the hell? Right? So this is the level of crookedness that's going on in Mexico, ladies and gentlemen. This is the level of them working together, willful crookedness that these people are dealing with. Okay, so don't let none of them play moral authority on us. Don't let none of them lecture us. Don't let that happen. These people are being exposed on a daily basis, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go to some music.
His last breath, and the only reason I ain't passed yet. I'm the first ever and the last left. I let the record show. I let the tech explode. Put on the weapon show. Pull up the Texaco. Narcos in Mexico. Call up the technical. Then on the text I blow. Shot that I'm Plexico. Turn you to vegetable. Body electrical. Acid and alkaline. body so flexible. The shooters feast like a Uber Eats. Got a group of these Sudanese Cuda bees. While letting the Uzi Aruga speak. An American got up in Cuba eats. The powers they seek and powers the weak. They following creeps. Powers that be inherit the world from cowards and sheep. Been to the mountaintop towers and peaks. Flowers and sweets and showered our feet. The lightning and thunder that shower the sleep. Shower the D's. This not a verse, this our receipts. What would I do with my last breath? Would I yell? Would I cry? Would I laugh? Cause I'm glad that I'm past that mess. Till I pass, never felt that blessed. Even bad breath when you living is better than good breath. When you lack flesh, got a glass chest that I cracked and my lost breath hasn't made it back yet. I'm on my last breath, walking the last step. I'm on the last test, final answer and my last guess. Wonder what I gotta pass next. I'm on my last quest, so much harder than my last track. Mapless, hope I can outlast death. Grim Reaper got my address, down on my last cent. Cash spent from a check I don't even have yet from my last rent. Swear this shit has got me mad stressed. I inherited my dad's debt, never got to hear his last breath. And the only reason I ain't passed yet, I'm the first ever in the last left.
Like a track finish, I attract women, they the bad women. I'ma splash in them, leave a bag with them. Then I raise seeds to be mad different. If I die now, I'm coming back in them. Cause they dad missing, but they cash dripping. Cause they royalty, so they brag different. Ain't no ass kissing, never had feelings. Seen a white victim in a black witness. Mac gripping.
V-Cell in my cup, I'm feeling boss. 21 flavors powered by CMOS. Glow from within, yeah, we never fall off. Count it up, 99 minerals, flaws. V-Cell in my cup, I'm feeling right. Sip to the sunrise, dance to the night. From the ocean's kiss to your city lights. 21 flavors, pure health in every bite. Drip so clean, we're custom made. From reef to street, we elevate. Gold green gel, set the record straight. Nature in a bottle, that's a better way. Charge me up, no caffeine crash. Clean energy, steady splash. From skin to gut, yeah, we live from within. Wellness on 10, let the rhythm begin. Pour it up, pour it up. Feel the wave, body thanking me. Every save, ocean wisdom in this glass. V-Cell magic, CMOS. V-Cell in my car, I'm feeling boss. 21 flavors powered by CMOS. Glow from within, yeah, we never fall off. Count it up, 99 minerals, flaws. Island breeze in the city maze. We're mineral rich in 1,000 ways. Immunity high like the summer rays. Hydrate the hustle, fuel your days. Berry, mango, ginger, lime. Pick your flow, your flavor, your time. Beauty and balance we redefine. Every little sip, align your shine. Wait up, feel the way, body thanking me for every sip. Ocean wisdom in this glass. V-Cell magic, CMOS. V-Cell in my car, I'm feeling boss. 21 flavors powered by CMOS. Glow from within, yeah, we never fall off. Count it up, 99 minerals, flaws. From the coral choir to the heartbeat drum. Roots run deep where the wild tides hum. Real ones know where the glow comes from. V-Cell in the mix now, watch us.
Shout out to V-Cell CMOS. V-Cell. Make sure y'all get your jar of V-Cell, the best CMOS on the planet, the best CMOS gel on the planet. I ain't coming for nobody with they CMOS drinks. Y'all can have that. We got the CMOS gel. Ladies and gentlemen, this show is sponsored by the people. This show is sponsored by the people. I'm going to put this right here for all of my supporters and whatnot. I want to say thank y'all. We're going to take 3 questions before we get out of here. We're going to take 3 questions before we get out of here. And go ahead and drop your question in the chat. And we'll go ahead and answer that in, to the best of our abilities. Okay, to the best of our abilities and whatnot. Shout out to everybody in the building and whatnot. You know what I mean? Shout out to everybody in the building. I hope to see y'all in the lecture and whatnot. You know? I hope to see you in the lecture on the 28th. Okay? That is going to be one of those ones right there. That's going to be one of those ones. We're doing a countdown leading up to the 28th. It's going to be a very, very powerful presentation. Okay. Very, very powerful. And we also have a book called All Roads Lead to Rome and whatnot. That's going to be coming up as well. It's just a conglomerate of many different, because this is an installation. When in Rome is something that we've been doing over the years and whatnot. So this is a organic presentation. This is a lecture that actually lives and breathes. It's organic. You know what I mean? It's an entity. You know, it's an egregor. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I want to say thank you. And I want to say good night. I will see you on the other side. Peace, love, and light.
Niggas in crypto, diamonds is dancing like they up in disco. You niggas in fist pump, you stay up that dip low. You niggas stay up and get low. Heard you way up in Frisco, and you say what the heck so. Every player gets snipped nose, acting gay up in Cisco. Might take the day off and play up at pistols, causing chaos and play up calypso. I pause in kitchens and caused addictions. I pause prescriptions and cause inflictions. Lil Bixby playing in stores and bricks and on the dark web. You gotta pause every door's cause encryption. Tesla engines, pause the pistons. I seen every floor I leave sore and listing. For that action they sponsored the Bronson. They was hooked on that shit like Johnson and Johnson. That freeway Ricky Ross, straight out of Compton, straight out of Bumpton. Red on blue violence in the land. The projection of the will, the perfection of the kill, the reflection of the pills. I'm a frontline soldier, I'm no doja. These crystals not for focus in crypto. Diamonds is dancing like they up in disco. You niggas in fist pump, you stay up and dip low. You niggas stay up and get low. Heard you way up in Frisco, and you say what the heck so. Every player gets snipped now, acting gay up in Cisco. Might take the day off and play up at pistols, causing chaos and play up calypso. Hickory dickory down, hit a lick, put the sticky in the box. When the blicky get hot, lick off a shot. Heavy in the pedal, we slip off a knot. Heavy in the ghetto, they crib walk a lot. Crib walk the crypto, lift off the stocks. Drips off the crystal and pots. Disco rods in the blocks on my chain from the crystal shop. In the light there, lift off the rock. Toe Virgil right chain on my block. White paint on my socks. White paint on my socks. Hickory dickory dock. Hit the lick, put the sticky in the box. When the blicky get hot, lick off a shot, we lick off a shot. Players in crypto, diamonds is dancing like they up in disco. You niggas in fist pump, you stay up that dip low. You niggas stay up and get low. Heard you way up in Frisco, and you say what the heck so. Every player gets snipped now, acting gay up in Cisco. Might take the day off and play up at pistols, causing chaos and play up calypso.